Hello, my name is Adam Severe, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Dragon's Den Review, where we're going to be looking at a very good episode, or a very good episode of Dragon's Den, which is actually rated as one of the best and also one of the best achieving companies from the Dragon Dens series. Now, I'm a business consultant with Cryt.ie, and what we do in these deep dive videos is look at the actual episode, go through some commentary, and then we follow up on that by looking at where the business is now, where it went, how it's going, and how the Dragons have actually done in terms of are they still in the business or if they got sold out or what have you. And we're going to look at some other lines and products that this guy has developed and some other businesses that he has developed since the Dragon's Den episode. We'll also look at some controversy around this brand that the episode was introducing in terms of a lawsuit from him and a ex-partner. Now, the episode or the entrepreneur that's in question is called, well, his character's name is called Levi Roots, but his actual name is Keith Valentine Grain, who appeared on the Dragon's Den in 2007, February 7th, which is 16 years after the recording of this date, so we can gain some real insight of where he actually went over the course of 16 years. Now, without further ado, let's jump straight into the actual video and go through some of the aspects of the actual episode on the Dragon's Den. Let's jump into that.
Put some music in my food for me, and give me some reggae, reggae sauce at Reggae Reggae Sauce. It's so nice, I had to name it twice. I called it Reggae Reggae Sauce at Reggae Reggae Sauce. Put some reggae sauce on your lips.
I wanted to pause the video and just talk a little bit about that branded song you just showed. It's obvious that branded songs are extremely important for a company's marketing efforts, has them quite excitement and buzz, and also can be quite catchy. So, you know yourself, you're going to be thinking about it day in, day out without being there. But it also creates a deeper emotional connection with your potential customers, which will influence brand equity. Now, evaluating a brand is quite difficult, and it can be arbitrary. It can be any kind of number, and that's actually, interestingly enough, how a lot of these bigger companies like Amazon and Google avoid paying a lot of taxes, which we'll see in another episode around corporate structuring. So please subscribe so if you want to be notified for that video. But to get back in how one would actually evaluate a company's brand more specifically, and the bigger evaluation of a is through brand awareness. Now, this for a smaller company would be in its target market, just basically asking how many people know about the brand. This can also be looked at in terms of how many people search for it on Google search directly, how many people go to the social media and stuff like that. That can be all like indicators and strong evidence for whatever value you want to put on your brand. Now, we know that he set his company at an evaluation of €250,000 because he's going to be asking for, as you're going to see, what's 20% for €50,000. So it would be interesting to see, you know, if you guys even want to try to predict if you believe that's worth that evaluation based on his branding. But another way, another thing that you have to kind of think about when it comes to branding is the brand equity. All right, so like, what is perception of people towards your brand? You can have a lot of brand awareness, but having bad PR in terms of people not liking your brand or having negative press and stuff like that can be harmful to your brand value as well. So it's very interesting and difficult part of evaluation is the actual brand evaluation of a company. Now, we're actually going to look at the top 500 companies and top 500 company list of brand value globally, which people use for stock analysis and stuff like that. Financial people use for stock analysis in terms of how valuable a stock can be based on its brand, and you can see it change over time, and you can actually correlate that with like different types of PR lawsuits, all the other negative public relations aspects of a company that a company may go through. So if we actually scroll down a little bit, we can see Instagram is kind of high, and I wonder where Facebook Meta would. But I'll leave a link to this in the description. You guys can have a look and see the different brand valuations, and an interesting part of evaluating a company in a general valuation. So let's jump back into the video, and as there's some more juicy parts coming up that we want to go through.
Thank you. My name is Levi Roots. I'm looking for 50,000 for 20% in my Reggae Reggae Sauce. I've been in the music business for over 30 years. I'm a producer, a singer, a songwriter, and a chef. For 15 of those 30 years, I've been doing the Notting Hill Carnival, supplying most of the stalls with my secret recipe sauce I entitled Reggae Reggae Sauce. So without further ado, I like just make you have a look. Right, the sauce. What is the sauce? Reggae Reggae Sauce is a hot to mild jerk barbecue sauce. It replaces the typical tomato ketchup or your hot pepper sauce. Tomato ketchup is boring, no flavors, just tomato. Hot pepper sauce is hot, no flavors, it ruins your food. With Reggae Reggae Sauce, it retains the flavors of the garlic, the peppers, the coriander, the scallion, and all the herbs and spices which we put in. I've got a very nice order from a meat company in Yorkshire for, wait for it, 2.5 million liters of Reggae Reggae Sauce as their first orders. We've had just like a shook hands on a deal. I've had a nice letter from them.
So he obviously starts with a pretty strong claim, all right, of 2.5 million liters, which selling 2.5 million liters of pretty much anything will probably result in a healthy revenue and therefore more than likely a healthy profit. So it's a strong claim, and you can see some of the eyebrows of the guys pop up, shoot up even, should I say. So it's interesting that he came out with such a strong claim, start of his pitch, and let's see how the investigation goes in terms of
I have with me. Now, all we have to do now is just try and get production up to standard. Any questions, please?
Levi Roots, what a great name.
Thanks
Is it your
very
real
much.
name?
No, it's my pseudonym. My real name is Keith. No, I don't see me would have been in 30 years in reggae if I was. Can I introduce Keith?
You've just lost so much credibility. You should have lied to him and said, yeah.
But you are, not if my mother calls me Keith, right? She calls me Levi. I've been knowing that ever since then.
Oh, dear, right.
You mentioned a letter you had with an order for 2.5 million litres.
Yeah.
So have you got the letter with you?
I have indeed.
Well, would you pass that to Theo and let him read it? We'll ask you a few more questions.
Certainly, no problem. And I think Theo must be this handsome guy right in front of me here.
Sold. I like you already.
So you've been selling this for 15 years
Yes.
at the carnival?
At Notting Hill Carnival, yes.
So how many bottles did you sell last year?
2,500.
2,500 bottles at the carnival. And approximately how much per bottle?
149.
So about £4,000 turnover or something.
Yeah. The sauce actually costs 32 pence to make each bottle of this size.
Where do you make it? How do you make it? Do you make it in your kitchen or
Yes,
you got a
at the
plant,
moment I make it at home in my kitchen, and my children help me, and we just sort of do it as the family there. A very small kitchen. We can't do a very large amount at the moment.
Can you legally make things like that in your kitchen and go out and sell them nationwide?
Absolutely, because we've had a letter and a confirmation from the food standard, which was one of the first things that I did.
Have you spoken to...
So I wanted to pause it there and just talk a little bit about the food standard, especially in England for any of you guys who might want to also make your sauce, stuff like that. The food standard is, you can apply for it online. It's free within 28 days of you want to trade or sell your food or sauce. An inspection comes into your premise that you're going to be producing the sauce, and a lot of the laws revolving around food products and stuff like that mainly are strictest parts, should I say, are mainly around the ingredients, hygiene, and also the allergies in the actual product and stuff like that. So it's not an extremely difficult regulation or law to kind of go through if you are starting your own brand or food product, but you can actually do it out of your own kitchen. It's just, probably not scalable as you would want it to be.
Spoken to anybody about what it takes to produce the kind of volumes that are going to be needed to fulfill these? And what do you need to do?
What I need to do is to rent a place. I mean, I won't buy or anything like that. I will just rent a premises. And I think the equipment will cost me about 25,000 for all equipment.
You need to spend £25,000 on equipment?
Yeah.
Now, I also wanted to pause it there and show you a few images of some equipment I looked at for producing, you know, juices and different sauces and stuff like that. You would need things like storing systems, slate conveyors, fruit and veg washing machines, sorting machines, peeling machines, conveyor belts, crushers, fruit mills, kettles, frying pans, the whole 9 yards, and also packaging and labeling, right? And just looking at the labeling machines and packaging machines, the industrial sized ones, which you would be able to use to produce 2.5 million liters of this sauce, would more than likely have to be this size. And they all at a minimum come at 20 grand. Now that's at second hand prices, right? So I was looking at some second hand machinery. That's obviously not including electricity, you know, installing them, maintaining them, stuff like that. So it's an expensive operation to set up your own kitchen. Now, obviously, he's talking about something a lot smaller, maybe an extra staff member, maybe some extra equipment in terms of like ovens and stuff like that, or whatever he would need, you know, cookers or whatever he would need for that. But it's an extremely expensive operation, capital intensive operation to set up a factory like that to produce 2.5 million liters of sauce. You know? So it's interesting. It's interesting to me how if he would be able to do it with 25,000 euro. And I also did some figures in terms of his cost, and it's an extremely capital intensive setup. Let's jump back in and get some more information about the actual kitchen.
Levi's still sounding confident, but his ambitious plans mean transforming a cottage industry into a mass production line virtually overnight. Theo Perfitis has been studying Levi's paperwork and has some concerns about the order itself.
I might have misunderstood you slightly, because I thought you said that you had an order for 2.5 million litres. That's not what this letter says. This letter says if they were to try and market your product, and if it was as successful as some of the other lines that are in national retailers, that's the sort of level that they would have to produce to make it happen. Is that your understanding?
No. Basically what he's saying to me, says, look, we're ready to make an order. As long as you can supply us with this, this is what we will do.
Right. And they're going to pay you a royalty of 5%.
Of 5%, providing that I can supply him. He will.
With him alone, I mean, he thinks that that will create about 390,000 packs.
Yeah.
Which will retail at about 1.7 million.
Yeah.
So 5% of that is?
You've got me there.
85.
85.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that'll
Ask
be
me to sing a song.
that would be your royalty.
Yes.
Roughly.
Roughly, yeah.
That'll be, and then you're going to be selling these guys at £6.50 a litre.
Per litre, yeah.
What's that in real money?
I think it's 16 million something. 16.5 million.
Levi, can I just want to, it's something I don't understand. You've got an order for 2,500 kilos.
Yeah.
Is that the one you're saying is 2.5 million litres?
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's right.
Not 2,500. 250,000, isn't it?
2,500 kilos.
It's a lot less than you think it is.
It's
2,500. The order is for
2,500 kilos.
Well, a kilo is about the same as a litre. If it's water, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
So it's not 2.5 million litres. If you've got 2,500 kilos, it's 2,500 litres.
Okay.
And then it says
that
that's
2,500
initial
kilos,
requirement, and then a potential every week thereafter of 500 kilos per week.
Which is about 25,000 a year.
Okay.
And you're getting £6 per...
£6.50 per litre.
Right, so it's about £130,000 worth per order, per year. It's not 16 million.
Richard Farley has exposed a disastrous miscalculation by Levi. Potential royalties aside, manufacturing the sauce himself would make him £130,000, but not...
Now, I want to just pause it there for a second and talk about the cost aspect of that €125,000 worth of revenue of sauce that Richard pointed out. We know from an earlier comment that he made that he was selling units at £145 in the Nottingham market, and he also said that it was 32 pence a bottle to make that. Now, I'm guessing that it is the product shown on the screen right now, which is a 300-gram vial of sauce. It seems to be the most common sauce sold, which would give us a figure of around £1 per litre in terms of cost that would cost him to make, you know, a litre of the sauce. You can also stipulate, would it cost him more per litre if he opened up a bigger kitchen, or less? I'm guessing less. But, you know, with the upfront cost, you have to also consider the profits get cut down a little bit, or there may be a longer time to pay back for that kitchen in terms of depreciation and stuff like that. So I'd be really interested to see that letter, first of all. And I couldn't find it in my research. And also his business plan in terms of, you know, what actual equipment he's going to buy for his little kitchen, whatever that he wanted the investment for. And let's just jump back in, as I think we're going to get some more revealing facts about what he wants to do and where that 125k is coming from.
Bannatyne has heard enough.
Levi, there's no business in this. So I'm going to let you know where I am, and I'm not going to invest. So I wish you the best of luck, but I'm out.
Duncan Bannatyne thinks Levi's sauce has no future. Will the 4 remaining dragons agree?
Okay, let me tell you where I am. I think you've got a great business, but it's for you, and you will do well out of it. It's not going to be on a big enough scale for me. So thanks for bringing it here, but I'm out.
Thank you.
Levi, let me come in here. That letter's not an order.
It's not an order.
And it's a hugely complex, difficult business to get into major supermarkets. In fact, I'd go as far as to say you've got pretty well very little hope. If, on the other hand, that letter becomes reality, the royalties alone on one line they're offering you is approximately £80,000. Then on top of that, you'll then receive your money for supplying the sauce. So at that stage, you actually don't need any help from anybody here if that comes to fruition. So those are the 2 reasons why I won't be investing. So I'm afraid, Levi, I'm out.
Levi is staring disaster in the face. With 3 dragons out in quick succession, his chances of securing the £50,000 investment are fading fast. Only Peter Jones and Richard Farley now stand between him and expulsion from the den.
It's a little bit confusing because, I mean, you're a fantastic guy, you're a lot of fun, right? But
I always get that.
I mean, that's completely irrelevant, really, because in terms of you managing a business, I'd be a bit nervous because, as I discovered, you're not doing 2.5 million litres, you're doing 2,500 litres. And I noticed you didn't sort of say, oh, well, in that case, I'll only need a small room or less money. So you probably admit to me that your business skills probably would need a little bit of help.
Absolutely, I would say that, yeah.
So I'm just sort of sitting here thinking, do I want to take a gamble, you know?
Can I just cut in to
Sure.
give Richard a bit of time to think about whether he wants to gamble or whether to think about it? Because I know where I'm going with it, and I just want to be clear where I am.
Okay.
So you've got no illusions going forward. I think that trying to get into this market, we know how competitive it is. It's seriously, seriously competitive. To try and range run product is kind of almost impossible. So to let you know where I am, I like impossible challenges.
Good.
And I've been sitting here for 10 minutes. I can't believe this is the first time ever I've actually started to sweat. And I don't know whether it's the sauce that I've just
Join the
taken
club.
or actually whether it's what I'm about to say. It is a complete punt, but I kind of probably would enjoy it. I've got a few people in the marketplace that I could introduce you to, but I'd want a little bit more of a slice, but I wouldn't want to take too much away from you because I think you need to earn a living. But I would offer you half the money for 20%.
It's an extraordinary twist. Peter Jones has stepped in and offered Levi half of the £50,000 he needs, but he's demanding the whole 20% equity stake in return. Under the rules of the den, Levi must secure all the money he's asking for, or he leaves empty-handed. His fate now rests with Richard Farley.
Is that an interesting offer to you? I mean, it just...
Well, it's the only one. It's the only one so far. It's going to be interesting if it's the only one so far.
Because on the one hand, if this works, it's great. If it doesn't matter how many other sources you've got. We're talking about 25,000 for 20%. So no, I think that's a fair. That's not. It is a gamble. It is a punt. I'd match that 25,000 for another 20%. So you'd be talking 50,000 for 40%, leaving you 60%.
Now, I also wanted to posit there. So basically, they cut his value of the company in half to 125k from his original 250k, taking 40% away from him. But I was speaking with a viewer of the series, and we were going back and forth on, is it better to give more equity or less equity, and how much, how to motivate the Dragons to really give you as much input and resources of theirs, their time and stuff like that. And we can actually see that some really good companies in terms of business plans, business models, past sales and future sales came onto the den but gave the Dragons smaller amounts and didn't do as well. And we were discussing on how much of a impact Peter had in actually pushing the brand to where it is today, which was like 38 million pounds of revenue, which a few years ago. And then we were going back and forth, but it's interesting, how much, and it's difficult to understand how much input the Dragons will give you, how many resources, including their time and finances and network, and that must be influenced highly by how much equity you give them. If they're majority shareholder or they have 20-30% of a business, they're obviously more than likely to try to push it as far as possible. Whereas if they have less, they're obviously not as likely to allocate as much resource to you. So it's an interesting topic, and I actually wonder how much of that influenced his business success, giving away so much to the Dragons, and then incentivizing them to give more, put more resources in, more time into expanding his business. So let's jump back in and see if he takes it.
Levi could have the £50,000 he's come for if he's prepared to give the two Dragons double the equity he was originally offering. Will he be prepared to sacrifice such a large chunk of his business?
Well, I came with, thinking that I'm going to be tough like you guys. But I must admit, I have learned a few things here, from you guys. Obviously, I'm always up for learning. And I think that deal, it's not ideal for me. But at the same time, I think this is going to do fantastic for the sauce. So I would accept it gladly. Okay, whatsoever.
Levi has done it. After a roller coaster ride in the den, he's giving away 40% of it in the...
So now we're going to be looking at where his company is now, how it's structured, who's involved, and what partners, or what Dragons, should I say, left or came into the company. And we're going to be doing that through the UK's company registration public filings. So let's jump onto there. Let me show you some stuff on screen, and we can kind of examine what the business journey was up to this point. All right, so we watched the episode. Now let's jump in to see where the company is right now, what shareholders are in, and what new shareholders have came in, what old shareholders have left, what the structure of the corporation for Reggae Reggae Sauce company brand looks like, where Levi Roots is today. And we can do all of this by looking up public records of private companies on the UK's company register house website, which I can leave a link in the description if you would like to do your own research. Now let's dive straight into the main company that was registered just after the Dragon's Den's episode, which is Roots Reggae Reggae Sauce Limited. It used to be known as, pull it up here, Reggae Reggae Sauce Limited, incorporated on 2007. Let's have a look at the shareholders involved. So Pensick Limited was a secretary appointed in 2002. Graham Keith Valentine, which is a director, and he was appointed in 2007, which is Levi Roots. We have Pintcom Howell, who is a solicitor and also a director, I believe, a nominee of Peter Jones, who was appointed in 2007. We have Graham Doran, which was a secretary and resigned a few months later. And we have Richard Company Administration, which was the Dragon called Richard, who also invested with Peter Jones. Now, he resigned in 2002, and we know from interviews with Levi Roots that he bought out Richard from his company several years after the Dragon's Den episode aired. Now let's go on to a second limited liability company that they incorporated in 2008. Now this limited liability company is called Levi Roots Reggae Reggae Foods Limited, and it was more than likely incorporated because there was huge volumes of revenue, and they were doing really well basically with the sauce side of their business. As seen from an interview with Levi Roots, they sold, I think, 500,000 units in the space of 3 months in a supermarket chain. And they were in a supermarket chain within 3 weeks of that airing of the episode. Peter Jones got them in Asda, I believe. So obviously the company went very fast. They realized that they wanted to separate certain parts of the business and open up a new line, which I believe was the juice or other different, business dealings that they had. But they wanted to separate the money-making sauce business with the new business ventures that they were going to take on, so that these two separate entities would have limited legal and financial liabilities that may come up from lawsuits. So imagine somebody sued Reggae Reggae Sauce for an allergy or food poisoning or some other type of lawsuit. It wouldn't affect the other business with the new adventures, and vice versa. So that's why they would open up a second company or a limited liability company, and you can see that the shareholding structure is exactly the same as the previous one, I believe. Yes, it is. But if we look into persons with significant control, you'll come in to see LRE Limited, which is interesting, because why would another company have significant control if it's owned by Levi Roots? Well, this is a holding company that was set up again to further reduce liabilities financially and legal from lawsuits that may arise. And you'll find out why that's very important on the next part of this episode, when we talk about a bit of the controversy and legal battles that Levi Roots had to partake in with his previous employer. So let's have a look at LRE Limited right now, and we can see that it has, again, exactly the same shareholder structure as the last two companies. But the person with significant control is Keith Valentine Graham, aka Levi Roots. So he's obviously has the final say and the majority shareholding of the Reggae Reggae brand in general. Now, another reason why people open up limited holding companies is not only to reduce liabilities, but it's also so that you can deploy certain parts of your business into different jurisdictions that have lower tax rates, so you can effectively lower the tax burden across all of your businesses. Now, this is like the Bahamas, and you've heard of all the tax havens out there. This is generally why they're generally where certain holding companies are deployed. So next part of the episode, what we're going to do is we're going to look into legal battles and the controversy surrounding the Reggae Reggae Sauce secret recipe that was sued on to Keith. So let's jump into the court proceedings and some of the results of that, and have a deeper look into that controversy. So I want to touch on a little bit around a controversy and lawsuit surrounding the Reggae Reggae Sauce brand. And I don't want to dive into it too deep, as I don't have a legal background and I find going through court proceedings quite boring. However, the lawsuit was filed by a guy called Tony Bailey, which he was also a Jamaican heritage and was at one point Keith's friend before he opened up Reggae Reggae Sauce. And the story that he represented to court in, a brief story, the general story, what he said was that he used to own a food stall in England where he employed Keith, a good friend of his at the time, to work. Now, that food stall that Tony owned made a sauce that they used to put on their food and sell to customers. That was their iconic sauce almost. But he was the only one that knew the recipe for that sauce. He wouldn't even tell his two sons or tell Keith how to make that sauce. Tony, once traveled to Jamaica for a vacation, where he was in an accident, and that accident left him in injuries that he couldn't work with, basically. So he told Keith the recipe and his two sons so that they could make the recipe while he was away. He later found out that Keith was making sachets and bottling the recipe using the formula he told him and selling it at carnivals and making artwork around the actual sauce. So there was a lot in the case. That's basically the claim that Tony made. There was 9 witnesses and one was a professional psychologist. I read a little bit about it, and it's actually interesting. It tells you a little bit about the actual recipes of the of the sauce, which I'll put up on the screen. And we also have the 9 witnesses, right? The proceedings took 6 days and cost Tony £1 million, which the court deemed that Tony would have, cost Levi £1 million, which the court deemed that Tony would have to pay back due to the fact that the court threw out the case and Tony lost. However, understanding that even though Tony has to pay back the £1 million that Levi spent, Levi probably will never get that money, as I believe Tony sued him as a private person. You know, there is bankruptcy laws and stuff like that. Couldn't imagine Tony, you know, if Tony doesn't have assets basically to pay back, Levi won't see it. So one thing I wanted to touch up on, as we'd made some predictions about the cost per litre that Levi was paying when he was doing a small scale sales in the Nottingham market. I want to talk a little bit about how it's actually being produced. Did he invest that money? Did he invest money into a big factory solely to produce Reggae Reggae Sauce, or what did he do? How is Reggae Reggae Sauce basically being produced, where and how? So we looked at some of the equipment that would be needed to create and produce sauce, such as conveyor belts, bottling factories, and all this type of stuff. And we determined that it's quite pricey. Even like small scale packaging facilities are €20,000 at a minimum second hand, along with all the other costs that are involved in running a warehouse. So what he did was he licensed the manufacturing of Reggae Reggae Sauce to a company called AB World Foods, which is a division of Associated British Foods. And since then, they have moved to Poland in 2007, the main manufacturing plant, which I'll show you on the screen. Now, I would imagine that licensing the production of your sauce to a private company like AB World Foods would probably cost significantly higher than £1 or £2, and I believe he's still selling it roughly at the same price, being £6 a litre, as stated in Dragon's Den. So the margins are probably thinner, but I believe the royalties will make up for that, and it also helps with scalability and less capital up front. So that's an interesting fact to know if you're interested in creating a food product, or even any product that has to be manufactured. There is companies out there that will create or manufacture the product on your behalf that you can license to. All right, so there's that. So another important thing is where he is now, or how he got into the supermarkets. Was I found very interesting, and it took him 3 weeks to get into Asda, and in the first 6 months they sold 500,000 bottles, and we could see that on an interview with Levi Roots and Peter Jones in the Asda supermarket. Furthermore, which I found interesting, was he actually partnered with KFC to make a Reggae Reggae burger in the UK, and also Domino's Pizza launched a limited edition Reggae Reggae Sauce. So you can see that he got a lot of traction in terms of the Reggae Reggae brand and food. He also opened up a new restaurant, which is, I believe, closed at the time of this recording, but it was a Caribbean smokehouse in Stanford, East London, where he still lives today, Brixton, England. So it's very interesting on what he's done, and if we go into his website, we can see that he has a large range of products now. He has juice and stuff like that, and he's selling it in a lot of different locations, as you can see now on the screen. So he's doing very well. We also have some Q&As with him that he done recently, so that you can get some insight onto, how he's doing right now and his experiences working with Peter and stuff like that. I'm going to leave all the links to that description on the own. All in all, he's a fantastic guy. He's, very inspirational for people that even want to do something as small as setting up a little sauce shop. What it can turn into is huge if you find the right people in your business and you have the right attitude. If you're humble, respectful, and people like you, I really believe you can do unlimited things in this world. So that's that. One of the most viewed episodes of Dragon's Den, and one of the best pitches voted by anonymous crowd, and also one of the most successful companies to come out of the Dragon's Den. That's been our episode on the Dragon's Den in-depth review. If you're looking to open up a business in the UK and Ireland, we do have a free educational course that has specific materials and stuff like financial aid, grants, and how to get micro loans and stuff like that all based for actually opening up a company in the UK and Ireland on education.cryt.ie, which I'll leave a link to in the description. Completely free to register, and you might learn a thing or two. Some things that I wish I knew when I first started my business 7 odd years ago. So, thank you for taking the time. I hope you drop a like, leave a comment with your opinion. And the last part we're going to get into, which is always my favorite, is the top comment of the day. So now let's look at the top comment winner on the YouTube comment of the Dragon's Den episode. Now, while I was looking through the comments, everything was hugely praisable. There was no negative comments. Most of them weren't humorous. They were just, in a pause of Levi Roots' success. But there was a few funny ones that I'll point out, and we'll go through a few of them here. So Luke says, Peter, I don't want to take too much equity from you because you need to earn a living. Levi makes 45 million. So Gunn said, Duncan Bannatyne, there is no future in this. I am out. Me 2020. Reggae Reggae Sauce at my local market. Definitely buying this shiznaz. Sounds wonderful. Okay. Luke N. My real name is Keith. Even if this guy did originally steal the recipe, man, is he like. Robert Savage. He knew 40% was steep, but 60% of success is better than 80% of failure. Now, I'm actually going to give this top comment winner to Robert Savage, as it's very true. As much as you should always be careful with equity and not get bullied out of it, you know what I mean? Like I said in the Van Dyke, the Sant episode, as he had so much money in the bank, he wasn't really in need of more investment rather than just giving away equity for another partner that can give him consultations or whatever he was looking for. But it is better to bring on a good team that can drive you. You know what I mean? Like that 40% that he gave away, it's arguable that if it was 20% for the same money with one dragon, he wouldn't have succeeded. Perhaps because the dragon didn't have didn't have enough of a stake in the company to really put himself behind it. So there's many different aspects you can think about. Business is all about luck and an awful lot about timing as well as execution, and the people around you, of course. There's many factors to it, but Robert Savage is true. Being too greedy with equity is as bad as giving too much away. So that's that for this episode. That's a top comment winner, Robert Savage. Thank you for your contribution. And I'm going to see you guys next week on another episode of Dragon's Den Deep Review, where we have another very interesting company that I thought, while watching the video, would do very well, but actually did not. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Please drop a like and subscribe, and we'll speak soon.